Nerf back here again, and a lot of you guys have been requesting a mod or mod guide for my Minimi or Stampede SMG. Now the Nerf Raven, I don't have it around here, but is a pretty close counterpart to the Minimi. And well, here I'll grab a Minimi just to show you the size comparison. But I've decided with this, you can watch this tutorial and it'll give you something close to this. It'll be pretty easy. I'll tell you where to do things differently than what I'll be doing. So I'm trying something a little bit different. It'll keep the front tactical rails instead of cutting it down real close and tight, because I want something that's a bit more larger, a bit more like a compact assault rifle, like a M4A1, I believe. More like a Stampede carbine, more or less. So okay, so what I've done is I've gone through, removed all the screws, and popped it open. We're going to start on the front end and then we'll do the back end next. Okay, so I've pulled all the screws, popped it open, and what I've done is whenever you open it up or desire to start some cosmetic modifications to a gun, you want to look and keep track of where all the innards are in important functioning parts. So I see the switch here. This part here you really don't want to mess with, because this piece here will come all the way to the front of that almost. So really, you can't go any further than this, which on the Minimi I came in and I used that for this barrel, or little stubby barrel there. But this one I'm going to keep it flat to over here, so it shouldn't be too bad. I've gone in and I looked through. You also want to check structurally which screws are where, because you want to keep a decent amount of screws in there to hold your blaster together. But there's one here that I removed so I can cut through this with a bandsaw. And this guy was just holding the orange piece to the yellow on the outside. I also pulled out the barrel. Looks like I just lop off a little bit of it, and I figured why not do that, or just might as well not do that. I also pulled out this so it isn't flopping around. But basically, what I'm going to be doing, I'll mark it with tape on my blaster as well. Just helps me keep an idea of where you don't want to go beyond when you're actually going and cut things. So basically, I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to truncate the front to be relatively flat, like so. So then I'll take this bandsaw, I'll cut that off, and then come back to you and we'll start working on the back end. Okay, so now we have our Stampede back. You can see that I cut it off. I cut it with a bit more leeway on the top, because when you cut it, it gets fairly rough. Also too, from the friction you get these burrs and stuff, so I'm going to take it back and sand it down to get it a lot smoother. But there's that step. I'll clean that up. Okay, so I've cleaned up the front of this, sanded it down, so you can see that's pretty nice and flat now. Whoops, missed a bit there. Then came through with an X-Acto knife, or a sharp knife, to take off all the burring, because when you sand it, sandpaper moves like this, and it pushes basically a lot of plastic and molten plastic this way, so you get little curls around the edge. You just go around it with an X-Acto knife like this, and just carefully just peel it off the edges. So then you have a nice clean front. So I'm going to take a plexiglass plate and affix it to here, and I'm thinking I'm going to have it come up some and have a hole in it so I have a nice mount for a strap. Granted, it could hook it on here, but then it's sort of lopsided. I want something centered. So I'm going to do that, and now I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do on the back end. I intend to keep it as short this way as the other Stampede. I'm still relatively debating whether or not to keep this angle piece here, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to eliminate it. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to open it up. Okay, now I see where where the mechanism is, so I can only go back to about this rib right here, as to not interfere with the catch mechanism back there. So I can, well, actually I can probably just reuse this other piece of tape from the front side. And I'm going to cut it off here, like that, and then I'm also going to come around and cut it like this way, and then where's the flat panel, I'm going to come in and cut it right there. I'm also going to remove this piece here, so I'm going to come in, come over, come down, and then lop off this piece, and all the back parts will come off. There will be a small, because if you look, if I just cut it like this, in the flat, there'll still be like little islands coming out here. They'll have to go back and hand saw carefully, not to mar off the existing plastic there, but that's what I'm going to do there. And then I'm going to bring the butt down flat as compared to the Minimi, which has a slant on it. So instead of doing it like this, which you can very easily do, I'm just going to have it a flat plate. And there I'm also going to put on an attachment, or make a homemade version of basically this piece here, so I can attach, or maybe not, I think it will though. I'm going to make some sort of attachment for some form of collapsible stock, because I think it still needs a buttstock piece, and it's definitely too small to shoulder, and like with perhaps the Raider type stock, it'll be nice because you can have it compact or rather large. You may also notice that I've put a dart in the barrel here. This is just a bad dart. Also, good idea to save these guys. This one's, it's got a massive gouge on it from my orange mod work kit, but just put it in there to keep sawdust out of the air chamber. So I'll go and I'll remove the back pieces and come back to you, and then we'll do the block back here, the plastic up here, and then the plastic and PVC back here. Okay, so I'm back. I got the back end cut off, cut out the box area here. Still a bit dusty, but here's the new conundrum that you have. Okay, so we cut it so it's relatively flat with this. Needs a bit of sanding there, but if you look at it from this end, we have these guys sticking out here, so we need to go back through with a handsaw, cut them off, and also cut this off. So if you try and go in there with a bandsaw, either A, you want such height, but you're going to end up slicing some of the other superstructure over here that helps hold your mechanism in place, so you don't want to do that. So just go in there carefully with your handsaw, with a nice little saw, just cut that off. So that's what we will do next. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I have my PVC pipe split here. This is 1.5 inch thin wall, I believe. So you want to be careful when you're splitting it. I split mine with a bandsaw, and what I did was carefully, this side is slightly, okay, so I marked the center and then set the fence so that the saw blade will come just to the edge of one in the center. So this one's the full-sized one. So this one's a bit shorter. So we want to use this one because it's the full half. Because when you cut it, you take out a blade width of material. So this is the smaller half. So we aren't going to use that one. But this one is the one we want to use. I also cut 2 blocks to the height from the gun, from this part here to the edge right there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to round these guys over so that this will sit on it. So I'm just going to go through and mark them up. Use my little square here. Make sure this is placed square. And I want it just so the top edge of this is right at the top edge of the block, for how I cut the blocks. Now my wood here, this is technically a 7-layer plywood, which is a bit overkill, but in the strength department, but overkill never hurt anybody. The other Stampede Minimis were made just with some pine, I believe. Okay, so we got that marked up. So I'm going to come in, round that over, turn it off, and then this will sit right on there, all nice and neat. So it'll create that nice, clean, rounded bottom down there. Okay, I'll just mark up the other one quick. Actually, could probably cut them both at the same time, but just mark this up. Another thing to keep in mind when you cut this, you want to be very careful not to roll the pipe as you push it through the saw. You want to be careful to have a firm grip so it pushes straight through, so you don't have a slight, because otherwise you can twist it as you go through and you get like a spirally or warped piece of pipe. I also cut mine just a tad longer than I needed, just to be on the safe side. I can always cut off or sand off the excess. So keeping this square. And we're going to push it up until it meets top. And mark it. So there we go. Got 2 pieces. Get these, cut them down, sand them up, and then we should be ready to attach them to the Stampede. Okay, so I got our blocks cut up here and run it around nice. So they sit in here nicely, and then these are just going to get mounted here like so. So then we can drop in 2 screws, hold this down, and then we'll cut and prepare the side panels. But we're going to attach these in here. I've also noticed, because this one each Stampede I guess is a bit different, came rather close to the edge there. So on the inside, I'm going to go along the inside corners of this with some plastic epoxy to help build up and reinforce that a bit, so we aren't because if we mount these to this panel, and these panels might be able to bow out or come out a bit. Don't want that, so I'm going to reinforce the inside with some plastic epoxy, and then we're going to mount these guys in there, and then make the plates, front and back and side plates. And then it's pretty much done. Need to remember to fill in these guys, but it's a pretty straightforward mod, just a lot of cutting, a lot of sanding. You should want to be careful not to hurt any of the internals. Okay, so I've gone in here, and if you look closely, I got some epoxy putty in there to help reinforce that, like I said, is going to do. The only tricky part is in here, because this is where this slide is. It's also got the heavier spring from SG Nerf spring mod for the Stampede. Highly recommended to any Stampede owners. But big thing is, I got a bit on the side from pushing it down in there, and I just got to make sure that this still will slide freely in there, so gotta get that spring lined up first. Oops. Guess it slid a bit too freely there, but I think it should work. Otherwise, I might need to sand it a bit. Well, I suppose we can test it without the spring, but because this is what'll trigger it when it comes. You'll pull this forward. We just need it really enough so it'll spring it back. So I guess I do need to test it with the spring here. See if we can get her in there. Okay, so it looks like it's fine, which is good. So now, while I got that out, I might as well go through and work on installing our wood blocks into there. Just probably leave the main air cylinder here out until we get it all put back together pretty close, or pretty much all the cosmetic modding done. But like I said, we're gonna glue and mount these guys in here. If there's room, I would really like to try and drop in a screw from the top, but it doesn't look like that's really an option here, because unless I do it on, because I'd like to keep them on this side, so it's like you pull it off and all your parts stay on this side, sort of like when you normally disassemble a blaster. But if you see here, it'd interfere with our slot there, so I might mount them on this side just so we can get a screw in there, because there's nothing else that'll really interfere with that there. So this side it's safe to screw them in, but I will probably just end up epoxying this one, and I might drop a screw in the back one, so it might be a bit weird there. The back side might be mounted to the top side that comes out and not the other side, just to add more stability. But let's do that. Okay, so I've gotten the rear block attached. I just have it attached to, oops. Well, I was supposed to only have it attached to the one side, but it seems it came a bit attached to both sides here. But should pop off without too much trouble. I'll work on that in a second. But you can see I put a hole, that's for the wires to come out, and I keyed it, or slotted it, so that you can take out the wires if you need to when this comes apart. But that's it. It's affixed with, because you have these little like steppy things going on here, that's epoxy putty and plastic epoxy to hold it to the lower side of the blaster, the side that stays there. But I'll have to break this loose, and then I'll mount the back one in and put a screw in it, and that one's going to be on the top side, so I can actually mount down a screw through it, because the other catch part is over here. So do that, get back to you. Okay, so we have now this back piece glued on. It's epoxy putty to the back. I'm going to take it to the belt sander and sand this so it's flush with the back end there, so we'll have a nice mounting spot for our back plate. You can see it's starting to take some shape here. We got it so we can put this guy on, just like on here. So we got that. Ta-da! And this one actually it's going to have significantly more room in the battery compartment. I even think you might be able to, here we go. Okay. Not quite. If you were really cheeky, you could probably adjust this piece so you could run this off of 8 AA's with brick like this. But with the lithium ions, you only need 4. It's a nice thing about it. Keeps them small and compact. But there we have that, and I don't know. It's sort of looking very square, but with the part to mount the buttstock or adjustable buttstock, I think it'll take a bit more shape back here, but we'll get to that in a bit. And we're going to have to do some sort of small barrel extension, I believe, because otherwise it'll just be trying to shoot through an opening up here, so probably take literally like no more than really half an inch of this barrel to put it on there. Or we could go with something larger and put take part of the original muzzle piece and put it up there. But I'm thinking maybe even just the very front of this. Just give you a bit of a lip or funnel back. That'll put the funnel back down into this, which will be just enough to take care of that little stretch that doesn't have a barrel or anything between that and the front plate. Still have access to the 2 side tack rails. The bottom tack rail, I might see if I can relocate this the button thing right back there, and it lands right between those just like this is. So might be able to work that. Probably won't be able to have your front grip down here in front of the clip. That'd be really tight anyhow, but coming along, we'll screw this in, make the side panels, and come back to you. Okay, so we're back here, and I've cut and mounted 2 side panels out of plexiglass. Just cut them to the width of the flat side of this before it goes rounding, and then to the length of this. I cut all my pieces just a touch long, about a 1/16 or so. So then I could take it again to the belt sander and re-sand the entire back smooth. So this should be one nice level plane all the way across for me to mount my butt plate on. Should go there. And if you notice too, I only have 1 screw for the, this is the main battery compartment access, is just this bottom piece of PVC pipe. I only need 1 screw, because if you look here, I left a bit of a lip, so this can't pull down and out. Now if you want, you can go in there with a bit more epoxy putty and fill that up a bit more, but I'll hold it. This screw had to be a bit higher because of our slot, so that goes up there. These panels are really just more or less for looks. I mean, they don't do a whole lot of structural things, they just help keep this from moving. And this is, you can already tell, it's sturdy. Also, like I said, don't know if you can quite see it in there, but there's this 1 screw right there holding in this panel. So, it should be fairly sturdy and robust here. And all I need to do now is put on the 2 panels, fill in this with epoxy putty, fill in these and this with epoxy putty. Just do a bit more cosmetic touch up there. Still sort of debating on the design for front, design for the back, and back buttstock. I might do a bit of brainstorming on that before, but I need some more plastic epoxy. I'm pretty much out here, so it'll be another day. So, day 1 of the Nerf Minimi. If you want to make it like my original one, like I said, the front you would just pull off these guys, and you would end up cutting it closer here down back in the beginning, and the difference in the rear is I used a bigger block of wood on this guy, and same location for the cutoff, but the thing is, from here, you just put a slope on it. Well, that's why you need the bigger block of wood. So you just bring it down here and then slope it, and that'll give you this nice look. But I'm thinking this will work out for what I want to do. So, till next time, here is part 1 of the Stampede project.